What's up, NIO family? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla SPY, and the broader markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below, or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvidia stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of NVIDIA. Deposits $10,000 to get $300 worth of the stock, or deposits $50,000 to get $1,000 of free NVIDIA. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY non-invested cash, and the offer ends very soon, so please check out my link down below to sign up. Anyways, as far as NIO is going, we're not looking too good for bulls right now because NIO has a quite evident head and shoulders like pattern right over here, and it looks like NIO is going to be dipping back down to 5.54. Now, there are some fears about their margins, about their earnings not being the best, and also because of some geopolitical tensions involving China, which could drag us down to start filling some of these gaps over here. And there is a good chance that NIO declines to 5.54, in my opinion. I also want to note that SPY and the QQQ have started to break structure, so we're not done with downside quite yet. We'll see if the market bounces a bit from here before it continues to decline, but there could be more downside coming for the broader markets, at least temporarily. Now, for NIO, there's been a lot of talk about how their ET9 has a great design. It's going to be very competitive in Europe. I think that's a great vehicle, at least for NIO. But for the short term, we don't really have that wow factor to help the share price really bounce, because there's been a lot of news about how their certain models are being delayed because of the high demand for their ET9, and simultaneously they're going to be prioritizing that over the other SUVs. So with that coming out, that has led to some delays for I think some of their models, and as a result of that, that is leading to some downside for the share price. And on top of that, there's been some fear about their overall margins, so that's another big factor to watch for. Mizuho has given NIO a neutral rating, and the price-price ratio is declining so far, which once again tells us that there is some weakness right now in NIO relative to the markets. When it comes to seasonality, Tuesdays tend to be green about 55% of the time, and Wednesdays tend to be green about 54% of the time. So we're going to see if we get some kind of bounce to start things off, but as time goes on, there is that risk of some downside because of the current setup. The market is kind of shaky right now because we had Jefferson from the Fed saying that the balance of risks in the economy have shifted in the recent months, with the increased downside risks to employment compared to the upside risks to inflation. And on top of this, he's been talking about how there is some risk of inflation potentially being sticky because it looks like there's a lack of progress due to the tariff effects, according to him. So the outlook is going to be based off a meeting by meeting approach to decide policy, according to Jefferson from the Fed. And then that is once again what's contributing to why we're seeing the overall target rate probabilities dropping, meaning there's a higher probability, or there's a less high probability of us getting a cut in December because the market's very uncertain. For tomorrow, it looks like there's not really much data coming out. We have some minor housing data in the morning, but there's not really much else, at least besides that. So it's going to be a very quiet data day. We do have the ADP employment change, though. That could cause a little bit of volatility in the morning, but we'll see what happens. So that being said, that's what I'm seeing so far. And then for earnings, also keep in mind that for Wednesday, we have NVIDIA announcing its earnings, which is going to be very impactful. NIO does not have earnings until the end of November. So we have a couple of weeks until earnings for NIO. For now, I would not be surprised if we consolidate before we continue to decline for 5.54. I think this head and shoulders will pan out, and this is looking more bearish for now, so keep that in mind. Another buying opportunity for the long term is likely coming from NIO stock. For SPY and the QQQ, on the 4-hour time frame, we have this support where this overall trend line happens to be. But the problem is that I think we're looking more bearish here. We're going to see if we could retest 668 or so, but we're making lower highs over and over again, and this may continue to reject and start dipping for 660. If 660 fails us, the lows from mid-October could be tested for essentially the 655 to 650 area, and we'll see if we reject or not. So watch that very closely. For the QQQ, we're also making lower highs right here, and we're going to see if we reject or not. I do think we might attempt a small bounce, but then if we can't break these EMAs, the odds will favor us just rejecting and continuing to fall for 598. If that fails us, these lows in 590 to 585 could be tested, and we'll see what happens from there. On the IWM, we're making lower highs. We're going to see if we can reclaim 238 or not. Overall, though, this is going to be favoring a rebound and an attempt to dip for like 229 or below. On ES, we're showing some weakness. We're forming a wick here, which could tell us there's going to be an attempt to rebound a little bit. But ultimately, I do think that this might be dipping towards these lows, and we might be retesting the supports over there, which would take us to like 6,600 to 6,580, and we'll see if we reject or not. On NQ, the same thing is going on. We're making lower highs here. And we're going to see if we continue to reject. We could bounce for like the low 25,000s. Then we'll see if we reject before we continue to fall back down towards these levels, taking us back down to about 24,400. So watch that very closely. On Bitcoin, we're making lower highs right here. We're on a very, very big downtrend. We could rebound for essentially 94,000, but then we're going to likely continue to decline back down to 90,000 or below. For Tesla, we're also on a downtrend. We are once again making lower highs and lower lows. And also to add on to this, I just want to say that Tesla attempted to rebound only to reject. So it could rebound here and just continue to reject as time goes on. So you want to be very, very careful. There is weakness for now. On Nvidia, we're making lower highs as well. We're going to see if we could reclaim 189. If we don't, there's going to be some risk of us dipping towards 185 to 181, a temporary dip approaching its earnings. For Aapl, we're showing some weakness favoring 265 or below. And let me just go over a couple more, such as like Coinbase. We're going to be favoring 260 to 255. Amazon is going to test 231. We're going to see if this holds. If not, it could be tipping more for 225. Meta is showing some weakness. It needs to hold 600. If it doesn't, it could be declining to like 585. Google may retest 281, and then Microsoft may also retest 500. So be very careful and just know there is some downside risk in this market. The VIX also has an inverse head and shoulders, which means that it might dip before it starts breaking out higher as the market has more downside. I think there's a risk of more downside in the markets. We might bounce a bit before we continue to fall. NIO may consolidate where we currently are around $6 to 6.2 before it continues to decline off this head and shoulders, taking us down towards that 5.5 area or below. So there is downside risk on NIO in my opinion. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your guys' days. I'll be back very soon with another upload, at least for tomorrow. Until then, I wish you all the best. I just want to remind you all that NIO's earnings is in a couple of weeks, and there's a lot of fear right now about their margins and such. And the overall market are going to likely see a decline. Looking at the current setups, there's a good chance we see more downside for the markets. But that's going to be nothing more than a buying opportunity for the end of the year, because I still remain very bullish for the month of December. We're just waiting to see when this market's going to fully form a bottom. And for now, we're just going to follow the price action, be very, very patient. I think the market has some downside risk, but we will be forming a bottom very soon, likely looking for a big squeeze for December. Until I see you guys again tomorrow, I thank you all so much for listening, and peace out.